Alright everybody, welcome back. Today, I seem to have built a advertising machine of some sort. I haven't seen it, but I got a second customer. Today we have a Toro Time Cutter Z5000. Down here on the mission sticker, you can see that it's a 2007, but, strange observation, you look at this sticker, this engine was built in 2010. So, that's totally original. Doing a basic service on this just to get it ready to go sit on some land somewhere, start up when it needs to, and not have any issues. But this also has a Kohler Courage. That could be an issue. I don't think there's an issue with this one yet, but I'm gonna do a few things with it, and you'll see that later, to make sure it has the best chance of survival. And I really hope it does. So, we're gonna go ahead and start taking some of the covers off and the mower deck off. And I'm gonna put you on time lapse till I feel like talking again. Alright, so now we're getting into setting the valve clearance. So far, the intake valve was absolutely loose. One thing I did notice is this actually has aluminum push rods with steel push rod ends pressed into it. That seems pretty odd to me, but it is what it is. I'm sure the engineers know better. So, what I got to do is we are going to set the intake to 5 thousandths. So, in between the valve spring, top of the valve, and the rocker arm will have to be tightened down to get us that 5 thousandths. And that was a pretty minimal adjustment to get that. So, to lock that there, I have a ratchet that you can actually put through the middle here. That fit yesterday. There it is. And then once I tighten the Allen in here, I will be able to try it again and make sure it didn't move. Alright, the nut did not move. And 5 thousandths slips right in. Slight drag on the out. So now we're going to rotate around to loosen up the exhaust valve. Alright, you can see that there is there is no clearance in this exhaust valve. So, that may have been a pretty big potential issue. There is nothing there, no free movement whatsoever. So, that is absolutely a problem. We're going to go ahead and set this one at 7 thousandths. Alright, so go ahead and break loose the locking Allen, like so. Alright, so we are off of that. Got 7 thousandths right there. That seems to be the spot. Perfect. That tightened up without spinning the nut at all. So, seven thousandths. Yep, so it's still right there. So that's dead on the intake stroke. Okay, so now that I got the valves set, I'm going to double check, make sure they're locked down. That feels good. And that feels good. Alright. So another known problem with these, the valve cover on them leaks. And it's really cool because the valve cover is directly above the exhaust. so oil can drip on the exhaust and cause all sorts of obvious issues. You can tell on this one that we started the leak right around here. It's a little bit wet. Somebody has already been in this because they had filled it full of RTV and smashed the cork gasket all the way down. You can see the actual ridge created by it being smashed down. So I got a brand new cork gasket. Not gonna mash it down as tight, but I have to get all this cleaned out before I can put this back together. The other thing I also did is I took out the old spark plug right here, and the kit, the Kohler maintenance kit, actually came with the Champion brand spark plug, kept it right around 30 thousandths. So brand new spark plug in there. I'll have brand new air filters, valve adjustment, oil change, and then I have a few things to do with the deck and the front steering system. So we'll go ahead and get those taken care of and start getting this valve cover back together. Alright, so I got the surfaces on it clean with brake parts cleaner. Got the old gasket put off. Got RTV on this one. I put especially extra down at the bottom to make sure we prevent any leaks. And I'm going to put this on finger tight, let it set up for a little bit, and then come back and torque it to get it completely done. So very carefully, I'm gonna go ahead and get this lined up and started before I get all the bolts in, and then push it in and get it all finger tight. Oh, this bottom one's not fun. Give myself a little bit of help here and just use this extension. That kind of pushed the gasket a little bit. Not a fan of that. Alright, we'll start with the bottom. Oh, still need one more bolt. It's right here. Alright, we'll start with the bottom and work our way to the top. And then we'll work our way to the outsides. And then I'll come back in a little bit after this is set up, just a hair, and then put final torque on these. So I'll be back. Alright, so another issue I found with this is these go on the back of the lawnmower blades between the spindle and the lawnmower blade. You can see this one still has a piece in it that helps center the blade. It sticks up on the other side a little bit. This one is completely missing, and in fact it was still on there, but it was completely ripped off and just sitting around. So what I have here is a steel spacer that I'm going to insert in this. Try to weld it down and cut it off to take place of that. This one fits nicely in the blade, and that'll keep the blade centered so you don't get off balance while this thing's running. So I'll get that all set up and then get it all welded in, cut down, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so I got the bushing pressed in here. There's a little lip sitting up right here. So I'm going to try to knock that down and weld it in with the TIG torch. And then I will be able to cut off the other side and do what I need to do. Alright, let's see what we can do here. Alright, gonna go a little bit hotter with that. About a 66 or so. So we got that welded in. Turn that off. Shut the bottle off. So the bushing's welded in. Now I just gotta knock all the weld down and cut it off on the other side, and then it should be ready to go. Cool. Alright, I got it ground down real quick, got the back flattened off, and this actually sits perfectly in that hole of the blade and holds it center. So I think this is going to work. And I'm going to start putting stuff back on the mower. I did already sharpen these blades. They look like they've eaten a few rocks in their day. But I think they'll be good for another season or two if he doesn't use it too terribly much. So we'll go ahead and start putting stuff back together. Alright, so I got it all back together. A couple other things I did. Up here on this pin for the front wheel, this was held together with a hose clamp. And now you can see that I actually have a spring keeper on here. I also put one over here to make it match because it had something completely different. And now it's ready to go. So it is all together. Once the weather breaks and it gets a little nicer outside, I will take it for a test run. But right here's what was on the other pin. So I took that off, put the other retainer on. Other than that, pretty simple, straightforward maintenance on this. I think it'll be ready to go for quite some time. So once it's dry outside, I'll give it a run through the yard and see how she does. Alright, got done with the second test. The first test was kind of a disaster because I didn't realize there was a big piece of metal hanging down off the bottom of the deck, and it was trying to scoop trenches in the yard. So after I got it propped up, I beat it back into place with a pipe wrench and a 4-pound sledgehammer. Did a second run, and now it's good to go. The other cool thing is, since I adjusted the valves, the first cold start on this, I actually just left it on this setting right here, low idle, and turned the key, and it just fired up. It did not do that before. So no choke, worked perfect. Now that everything's back together, I can get this back on the trailer and let the customer know that it's all done, and he can come pick it up. But this has been a good one. Needed some maintenance. One thing I didn't talk about, right here, these bolts on each side were actually loose. When I went to go first test drive it, it felt like the whole thing was going to wobble in half. That's all tightened up now, so it doesn't do it anymore. So I think this is a lot safer than it was. Hopefully we're not running over cinder blocks and chunks of steel with this, and it stays in relatively good shape. One can hope. So I'm gonna get this loaded up and let them know it's done. Thanks for watching. See you later.